Hello, I'm Hemlata from Periyar University. Marketing strategies, second to strategy of war or a game of chess. The different players adjust the environment and competition, analyze the various moves for alternatives, plan them, implement them, and keep the results of their move, corrections, competitors' move, and interactions thereon. In this program, we would discuss marketing, its philosophy, marketing strategy, including its globalization aspect. This Professor Philipkotler, who is the world-renowned authority on the subject of marketing, teaches at the Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University in USA, which is currently rated as the top school of management in that country. Let us first discuss about the marketing philosophy. What are the likely developments in this area? We do speak about 4 pieces of marketing. What is this marketing's 4 pieces? All is there. No to it.
In the 1980s, quality became a concern, and people like Tom Peters and others wrote books about In Search of Excellence, and meanwhile Japan was pursuing excellence and quality and gaining as a result of achieving better quality. So that became the goal of many firms, including U.S. firms who had neglected quality. For example, Ford Motor made good cars, but not the greatest cars. And then when they began to lose share, they studied the situation and they introduced a quality improvement process. That's what we call it, total quality improvement process. And the quality has gotten much better. Now, when every company makes great cars, then that isn't enough of a differentiator. It makes the product once again into a sort of a commodity purchase. So we have to search for another way to be superior. And another way to be superior is through superior service. Let us say that 2 companies make a very fine car, but they differ in their service. That is their repair service, answering questions for you, informing you on how to use the product more wisely and safely, and so on. So service becomes a competitive variable. And may I say that in the 90s, there would be this continuation of interest in improving quality and improving service. But there are some new things happening. One of them is what we call time-based competition. That is, being able to speed up your innovation, your production, your distribution, your service repair, and so on. And those companies that find out how to be faster will also be winners. And we've seen that already. We've seen that the Japanese companies can now create a new car in 3 years rather than 5 years, leaving behind American companies who are still working on a 5-year turnaround basis, although they're catching up to 4 years recently. Take the fast food companies. What is their success? Well, people value time, or at least more people are time sensitive. For example, we pay a premium to deliver mail faster. We do it through Federal Express or some other carrier. We pay more for fax messages, but we value the time reduction. We like to develop our film faster. We pay for 1-hour film development. We also want our glasses to be made faster if we wear glasses, and right now there's a 1-hour service in many parts of the United States for a new pair of glasses. So we're finding that time is going to be perhaps the new variable for competition in the 90s. Now, in addition to time, I would mention another variable which we call customization. Well, we can't necessarily have our own dream home, our own dream car, but industry is finding ways to customize without much extra cost. I have seen companies that have automated their factories, and each product coming off the line is a little different because of robotics and flexible production and so on. Well, since the product is closer to what the customer wants, then the customer will pay more for it, and And that's another way to compete. Customization, I think, will be very important in the 90s.
Most organizations start with the production or invitation. Therefore, the primacy of production department. As the organization develops, competition builds up. We thus felt to be in close contact to customers to push the products, and therefore a sales department is set up. As the market further develops, competition is even keener. We thus felt to have functions like advertising, marketing research, and market planning. And then the issues arises whether there should be a separate marketing department or one marketing department having all these functions. In most organizations, all these functions are set up under the umbrella of marketing department, and which has sales, marketing research, advertising, marketing planning, etc. This also leads to the inevitable conflict between the primacy of marketing department, its relationship with other departments in the organization. Some sort of a power spell also develops. What the end result would be does depend on the Philipkotler intention of the organization, whether it is production rhythm, marketing rhythm, or market values. So, in the organization context, let us try to understand how the marketing departments evolve, what's their relationship with other departments in the organizations, and what are the future developments we can foresee in this context.
In the beginning, companies did not have marketing departments, but sales departments. But sales departments are not marketing departments. In fact, the birth of marketing departments takes place when the sales department is given more activities to handle than just selling. For example, a sales department needs leads. Someone has to do research to find leads for new customers. And in addition, marketing research has to be done to find out what people want. Well, the salesmen don't have the time to do it. Someone has to advertise the product or promote it other than in direct selling. So the result is that a number of needs and jobs and tasks come up which collectively can be called marketing tasks, sales being part of it, of course. Now, you usually find a company appointing a marketing director to handle these non-selling tasks. And then over time, that marketing director may start doing the marketing planning and telling the sales force what to say when they sell, what the price ought to be, what segments to pursue. And before you know it, the marketing director becomes a marketing vice president. Now, often the sales vice person remains a sales vice president, and one does not work for the other. They cooperate. But you can see that if you want to really integrate your whole marketing mix, basically the power should move eventually to the marketing group, which will set the strategy and get the resources and even identify what role the sales force will play in the larger picture. And so basically over time, marketing has become a more major part and power in companies, and sales has not been demoted, but it's been made part of the total operation. Now, this is the good news. The bad news is that when we leave theory and go into practice, we find that a lot of marketing and sales departments don't get along. The salespeople will often say that the price of the product is too high, the product isn't made the right way for the customers, they find it hard to sell, and they wish the marketing department was more able or competent. They blame the marketing department often. Meanwhile, the marketing department has its excuses and will say, well, I wish we had better salespeople, I wish they were more motivated, why do they always want to bring down the price, why don't they learn how to sell better, and so on. When you see this friction, then you know you have a real problem and the need to harmonize marketing and sales. Now, suppose you succeed, and there are ways which consultants have found to bring together a harmonious relationship between marketing and salespeople. It takes a lot of steps and a lot of time, but it can be done and must be done. But then you're stuck with a further problem, and that is these other departments may not be market-oriented, customer-oriented. So you have an R&D department, and they don't listen to the customer. They simply design products which meet their high engineering standards but may not meet the technical or the human standards and wishes of the final buyer. So we find that we must bring the R&D people and the engineers to meet the customers, to get a sense of what really would sell and how it should be designed. Actually, my position is that the customer should be part of the design team. Well, many companies didn't do this. As obvious as it is, many companies never brought in the customer, and of course their products half the time would fail. So we're saying that we need a feedback loop. And getting that kind of department, engineering and R&D, to be customer-driven and customer-sensitive. And not only them, what about the manufacturing people who might want to compromise the right design in order to save money? What about the purchasing people who might want to substitute a cheaper ingredient for a better ingredient? You can see that there are many departments that may distort and compromise what the proposition is, what the offer should be, what we basically say the positioning of the product ought to have been. And so to prevent that, you must get every department committed to serving the customer's interests and committed to the idea or concept that was going to be developed for the customer. Now that's a hard job. Purchasing people want to keep the costs down. So do the manufacturing people. The R&D people want big laboratories and et cetera, et cetera. So it takes a real leader in a company, a real CEO, to drive all the departments to work for the same boss, not himself. It sounds like he's the boss, but the boss should be the customer. And once that's achieved, once everyone is market-oriented and market-driven, then you can say you have truly a marketing company and not simply a company with a marketing department.
Lately, there has been a lot of discussions about the globalization of markets and globalization of marketing strategies. Trend is somewhat evident that companies are designing products for world market with global brands, global advertising campaigns, global marketing strategies, and even global production. For example, we can take the case of cars, computers, some of the toiletry products. This trend is especially evident in Japan and Far East, where companies have started designing the products for world market as a whole, even to the extent of launching the products in their own home markets after they have been launched elsewhere and tested and found to be successful. There is also another interesting trend. Because of the flexible marketing systems, the needs of mass manufacturing technology can now be reconciled with customization. In other words, today the products can be manufactured in different parts of the world, supplied somewhere else. The marketing strategies may be decided at the headquarters and strategies implemented throughout the world. Now, are these two irreconcilable trends, or are they two sides of the same coin? Let us discuss with Philipkotler what his ideas on globalization of markets are.
Well, let me say that globalization itself first has to be understood, and that is that the world is becoming more interdependent through the developments in technology, communications, transportation. It's much easier now to build brand names around the world and move goods around the world and so on. Now, some economies have not joined the world in that sense. Now, one reason might be that the economy has a very large domestic market. This was our problem in the United States for years. We only did 5% of global work because we had such a huge market demand at home. I believe it's also India's situation with such a large market at home. It is not pushing, exporting successfully as much as it might because It's not like a country like Belgium, which with its 8 or 9 million people, that's a small market. Holland is 14 million. They need other markets. Finland, with its 5 million people, needs other markets. So the globalization level of different countries differ. Now, I believe very strongly that every country would find it in its best interest to globalize. By that I mean to open up its doors to the fresh winds of competition by allowing foreign investment to come in, and also to improving its own quality and exporting so that it becomes a world-class producer of certain goods and services. Recently, Michael Porter wrote a book called The Competitive Advantage of Nations, where he points out that certain countries have great reputations for certain products, like Italy for fashion and furniture, and you might say the Japan for its electronics and watches and cars and so on and so forth. Now, India must find those industries which it has potential natural advantage in, and it should build up world-class products and become the leading source of those products. A good example would be software. There's much talk about India in the year 2000 being perhaps the world's leading software producer. So I think that globalization is important, but don't take it to mean that it's a matter of standardizing a product and selling it to the world. Sometimes a product can be standardized around the world. It's the nature of that very product and industry. For example, the Sony Walkman. Why do you change it? Why should the color be changed for different places or the size changed for different places? Generally speaking, electronics, heavy equipment, and so on, airplane engines, they don't need modification by country. On the other hand, food products, particularly, maybe fashion products, they need adaptation. And there, if you're going to be successful, you better change your product from place to place as you find the cultures changing.
There are various connotations to the word marketing. It is the customer activity in the marketplace. It is the philosophy dealing with customer satisfaction. It is also a managerial activity dealing with analysis, planning, and control of organizational activities with a view to maximize the customer satisfaction while optimizing organizational goals. Now there are different perceptions about the whole of marketing in a country like India. Since most of the products and commodities are in shortage, what the market and marketing people will do? Some feel that just for the same reason, their quality is not as desirable as it should be. Therefore, to improve the distinguishing efficiencies and to improve the customer satisfaction, in fact, the role of marketing even increases. There are various views about the role and stages of professional marketing activity in India. Marketing as a professional activity is lagging behind in a country like India compared to the developed countries. Let us see our Professor Kotler's view on the subject.
In India, my guess is as follows, that marketing is in different stages of thinking and development in different companies. My guess is that in some of the multinationals like Unilever, Nestle, it's a pretty advanced discipline. I mean, I know it's advanced in those companies in their own home bases, and I am sure that they are very smart marketers. And they're building very large companies that have economies of scale, which have built up strong brand names, respected brand names. On the other hand, you have cases in Hong Kong and Taiwan where these countries produce a lot of goods under other labels. And their good quality is coming out, and yet these countries are not getting recognition by putting their own brand names on these. And then there's some other models. The Thai economy is probably practicing a different approach, but there's some common characteristics which India should notice. One common characteristic is that these places often welcome foreign capital, maybe not foreign goods, but as consumers, but they welcome foreign capital, and they look around the world to find the best that they can copy or import or license. That's what the Japanese did. They build quality into their products. They try to be producing world-class products. They have a high ratio of business people, that's managers and entrepreneurs, to the number of bureaucrats. They have good relationships between government, business, and labor, and so on and so forth. I mean, you can find these characteristics, and they must mean that a country seems to be freer to grow. It's allowing, what it's doing is protecting and encouraging private initiative. I might even say that another factor is these countries seem to have political stability. So therefore investment in these countries is justified and warranted. Now let's move to India. What is India's growth model? India's growth model is a central planning model with ownership of state enterprises, at least in core areas, and also in some areas that are not really necessary, like why should India run the government run hotels and make wristwatches? But in any case, it's more on what we call the socialist model. And I understand the reasons for it, and I understand the history of that model. And it's a kind of paternalistic model which says capitalism could be corruptive. Foreign multinationals might come to India and use us and exploit us. So we have to be very regulatory. We have to be very careful. Well, of course, that creates a lot of bureaucrats who have power to license or not license. They don't take any risks. They have high tenure. They have political bases for decision making, and a lot of that impedes the actions and initiative of people in India who would create businesses and grow businesses and so on. It's very hard. I mean, you have to wait a whole year to get a license. By and large, however, I suspect that most companies here are in a sales-driven stage, that marketing is considered a small appendage to a large sales department, and that those companies will have to consider going through these kinds of stages I mentioned, and there will be resistance to that, and it boils down to a problem which is called the problem of marketing. How do you get marketing sold inside of the company, which is often a harder problem than marketing to the outside. Now, I think that the message is clear, that some liberalization, the kind that Rajiv Gandhi started, is desirable in India. And that means you got a major problem of what do you do with the big bureaucracy? And do you privatize, or can you at least make public enterprises more efficient and responsive and so on? And I think you should privatize where you can, and that would bring in capital, and you should give capital a chance to make money here too, because it's not a matter of charity. Capital is at risk. It could be put easily elsewhere for a good return. To draw them to India involves political stability, commitment on both sides, and so on. So I think that India should study the models of development of successful countries and blend its own model, as it has done in some other respects. I've noticed in what is called performance contracting with the government enterprises, the public enterprises. That model was not an originally Indian one, but the way it came out, it was blended from what the French have been doing and the South Koreans have been doing. It's now an Indian model, and I hope it works. It will make public enterprises work better, and I think that's the next step. So I believe that the talent is certainly there. But by the way, you could see in the behavior of overseas Indians and Indian non-residents that they are the driving economic force in many countries where they have settled. So when they are free to really build businesses and build wealth, they do a marvelous job. And I hope that the marketing training that is found in the universities here prepares people to use the latest tools to run the business as well, whether they're working for multinationals or their own companies, whatever. So I wish the very best to Indian marketing.